Hi, good evening. This is Jody, and I am here doing another new moon reading for the collective energy of this Leo new moon. The new moon is at 0 degrees Leo on Sunday, really early, around like 2:30 in the morning. So late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. The sun enters Leo, and then the moon follows quickly after. So this is actually going to be the first of two Leo new moons, and the next one will be on the Great American Eclipse. So this initiates the portal of the cosmic portal of the eclipse energy, and eclipses are all about challenging our structures. It's this breakup in the rhythm and structure of time where the moon is usually following this one rhythm, the sun is usually following another rhythm, and they cross paths and create a break in the system, so that we can really look at what's going on and analyze. So I was doing a little research on the eclipses. I came across an article that documents all of the trends of breakdowns in government around eclipse times, and with Leo being in Mars and Leo being about personal power, it's definitely going to be interesting, especially as it crosses over America, North America. So I present some ascended masters to help me with this reading this month, and the first one who came in was Archangel Michael. So as we move through the energy this month, especially over the next couple of weeks, don't be afraid to call on Archangel Michael when you need that extra oomph of power, when you need that reminder that you can do it, you can get through, especially as the energies get sporadic or intense or challenging, when your personal freedom or your integrity is challenged. Call on Archangel Michael to help you, and then remember that you define your freedom, you define your joy, and there's power in both of those. So, all right, we're going to get started. We are in a time, at the heart of the matter, at the center of this reading, we are in a time where we get to really pause and reflect. It is time to take a passion inventory, an inventory of everything that makes you feel passionate, that gives you a full body yes. It's time to reflect on the commitments we've made and the things in our lives that are showing up consistently or not showing up consistently, and just kind of taking stock and inventory of where we're putting our energy, either consciously or unconsciously. Get really clear on that. This is your time to reflect on that, because you're going to be challenged to change those systems and structures. Anything that is not in alignment with your personal power is going to get really challenged. And then in the areas where you are committed to your highest integrity and living your fullest expression, you're also going to be challenged. I made a post yesterday about the initiation process that life puts us through, that when you make a commitment to yourself and to the universe, to the world, that you're going to do something, life wants to see how serious you are. So it will start putting obstacles in your path to see how dedicated are you to your commitments. And I can only speak about this because of my personal experiences that I've been going through. I've been really challenged on keeping my commitments. I keep telling the universe that I want this, and I'm not consistently available for this, whatever this is. And so for me, the challenge is creating the structure and the systems and putting those in place so that my life can flow the way I say I want it to. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone depending on where their planets are. So right now is the time to really pause, reflect, take inventory on what you want to keep and what wants to go. Because the Tower has come up in the center of things. And Tower is upheaval, change, dynamic shifts. So we're really You can be conscious in the upheaval and in the change, or you can choose not to do that work and life will just do it for you. So I'm going to invite everyone to take a moment, pause, and really reflect on what it is you want to keep and what gets to go. In our mental space, we have been doing a lot of clearing out of the old thought patterns, old paradigms, psychological trauma, wound stories, things that are not serving us. We have had a lot of opportunities for those things to come up and for us to witness them and get clear on what those are. And now we're finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we're starting to see some impact and change in that. And so, more and more people are waking up. Like, look at the amount of people who won't eat GMOs, people who are questioning the allopathic healthcare industry, people who are challenging whether or not our government is looking out for us or for their profits, right? So there is a lot more questioning, a lot more awareness, a lot more waking up, and this is happening not just among conspiracy theorists or super woo-woo communities anymore, but it's starting to reach globally, and Netflix documentaries, I feel like, have a lot to do with that. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of ways that this is being reached and spread and creeping through the collective consciousness. And so there's starting to be this movement towards more bliss and more harmony. How can we create a more harmonious earth, not just for me as the individual, but for the collective whole? Because more and more we're starting to realize that the collective whole is me, right? Like, I am a piece of that. And if there's a part of me that can succeed while the rest of the world is falling apart, then there's some cognitive dissonance that needs to happen there. If you can be really excited about, yeah, I'm crushing it and the whole world's going to hell. So in our spiritual space and moving forward, we are still doing a lot of shadow work. We are looking at these narcissistic tendencies that culture and society exalts, especially here in the U.S. But colonialism in our culture here really exalts all these supremely narcissistic tendencies. You have to be a psychopath or a narcissist in order to succeed in our capitalist society today. That's what puts you at the top of the food chain. That's what makes you a CEO of a company. That's what makes you sleep at night if you can give yourself a 5,000% bonus while the families who are making you rich can't feed their kids, right? So we're starting to wake up and question that. And there has been the divine feminine healing on the planet has reached a point where we are getting to start to hold space for the divine masculine to wake up and look at this me versus them, the service of self paradigm, right? So we're facing our devils, we're facing our shadow there. And I talked about this last month, that we're kind of moving into this space where the divine masculine is awakening, and so we really just get to start holding space for that. But last month we were still really trying to figure out what that means. Now we're starting to get some focal points. Now we're starting to realize maybe isolation that causes addiction, and this isolation factor, right? So masculine energy is one. And when one stands alone, that's where this dissonance comes in, because one needs two, which is the feminine, right? So they need to be in balance. That masculine needs the feminine. When the masculine is self-serving, that's where this narcissism comes from. When the masculine is serving the feminine vision of the whole, because the feminine is the mother, right? She holds the whole container. So her vision holds the whole container, or his, her, these are subjective terms. because every man has both masculine and feminine, and every woman has both masculine and feminine. So when the masculine can serve the wholeness of the feminine, then we start to come back into balance. And that is something that collectively we are starting to see and recognize and work towards. In our physical space, we're still feeling really unsafe and unsure about how all this is going to move forward. And so there's a tendency for us to grasp, to get possessive, for us to feel like personal power comes from holding on really tight to what we've known and what's worked for us. And that is illusion. That's illusory, right? So that is going to create a cup full for one, while all the other cups are spilling out and no one has anything but this one. So it's still this, we're still working through this isolation, this one, this me first, this self-serving energy. And how we get to overcome that is really plugging into our communities, realizing that taking care of my brother, taking care of my sister, taking care of my neighbor or my cousin or the person down the street I've never met who is struggling. And, you just have that moment where you catch them in the grocery store and maybe they can't pay for all their groceries, but you just got a $50 bonus. Like, spreading that energy around, creating that support within your communities. That is how we break this down. That is how we break down this self-serving, this one me energy. And we honestly, through taking care of the community and the spaces around us, that is where the personal power, that is where the freedom and the joy comes from, because we are wired for connection. We're wired to connect to one another. And so when we can help one another, it brings in this greater sense of joy and power and freedom. And then, being willing to share yourself. So it's not just about paying it forward in a monetary sense, or, buying someone groceries or donating to a great charity or a great cause, or like giving your time, but also like being able to share your emotional journey with the people around you helps them realize like, oh, I'm not alone in this. So that's a really powerful piece of what's happening in our physical reality right now and where the shift's going to happen there. And then in our emotional space, while we are moving towards facing our shadows, we're still in this space where we're kind of afraid to look at it. It's really scary to look at the wounds of the masculine and that shadow side, and to admit that we have been living from a wound story and from disempowerment, especially when I feel like, so when we tune into the wound story of the masculine, it gets really easy to feel super empowered and like in control. But control is not personal power. Surrender is personal power. Being able to surrender what you can't control, right? Being able to let go and just flow with what there is. And then being able to be in that flow to decide the personal actions and inspired actions that you're going to take. We have all the tools to move forward, emotionally speaking. We, as a collective, we know that there is power in the community. And so coming together and celebrating and bringing our tools, putting them in the melting pot all together is really what's going to bring us the joy and transformation that we're all desiring. And that's ultimately what's going to heal the world. So as we can come together to share the scarier parts of ourselves, like I just said, when you share that emotional experience that you're having, and not just the good ones, because in society we're told that like, oh, well, if you're not happy, there's something wrong with you, or everything will be fine, or it's okay, you don't have to cry. And that is old stuff. We don't have to carry that anymore. It's really empowering to cry when you need to cry. And it's really, really empowering to be held and witnessed and seen in those vulnerable spaces, and to allow yourself to be witnessed in those really vulnerable spaces. There's a healing transformation that takes place when you can be held in your community, held by your brothers and sisters, and um, and be experiencing whatever it is that you're experiencing. It allows you to meet yourself where you're at and to, again, step into the personal power of surrender. And again, this is how we heal the world. So, as we're moving through the month and you've taken your passion inventory and you are contemplating on what it is that you're committed to, and you are deciding to move forward towards more harmony in the world and look at your wounded masculine. And if you still have some, feminine work to do, keep doing that work. Like I said last time, we can't just drop that off the edge. We've just done enough foundational work in that area that we can start to move over into the masculine wounds. And as we take inventory, start noticing the areas of your life where you're mistaking control for personal power. And start noticing the areas in your life where you're isolating to keep yourself safe. And start challenging yourself to see things from another person's point of view, because that is where we cultivate compassion. And when love matures, it moves into the state of compassion. So there's love, and what we've been taught love is very codependent. So there's love that awakens out of codependency and is more in alignment with the divine. And that's an internal process that starts with the self. And then once that self-love is cultivated, we can take that outwards and start creating compassion, seeing things from another's point of view, being able to meet someone else where they're at, because you're meeting yourself where you're at in each moment. So when you start to meet yourself, you can meet others and be like, oh, well, whatever this is that's triggering me or making me feel wounded or scared or unsafe, like, one, I get to look at that in me, and two, whatever their actions are not about me, it's about them. And understanding where they're at in their life and having the compassion for that. And then from compassion, we can move into forgiveness, which was the primary focus of the full moon reading that I did 2 weeks ago, was just at the center, clearing out all of that judgment. And what heals judgment is forgiveness. And so once you are able to cultivate this space of compassion, you can start to grow that into forgiveness for all of the spaces that you have been wounded or that you're holding on to judgment around. And then from forgiveness, we just get to move into faith. Faith that the forgiveness work is enough, and faith that the world is going to heal and we are moving in a better direction, and that despite all of the crazy things that we're experiencing right now, that the healing is happening and the world is waking up. So that is what I have for you today. I am doing a moon circle this evening. Ladies, if you are in Salt Lake City, I would invite you to join me. We're starting in about an hour and a half, and it will be in Sugar House, so you can private message me for directions. I've made a couple of posts about it. And if you're not in Salt Lake, then go ahead and follow me, and I will post whatever insights and clarity came up for me during the moon, because it's always powerful when you get a community of sisters together and we raise energy. And soon I hope to start doing co-ed groups on the full moon, where we get to have men and women come together. So if there's any men who are already creating men's only circles, I would love to hear about that. Please reach out to me. And if there's anyone who's interested in having a co-ed circle on the full moon, to create the space and energy and reflection. And I would also love to hear your comments on that, because that will really inspire me to get it going if I know that there are people waiting for that space to be created. So I'm just calling in the tribe. Whoever wants to show up, come join me. All right. Thanks all for tuning in. Mwah. Love you. Have a beautiful new moon.